Hello, and welcome to the Dads of Adventure podcast. Today, we are going to be continuing a series on my Walt Disney World family vacation in 1991. This is going over some of the extras that we did. So it's not necessarily the Disney parks, but some of the extra things that were part of that trip. Before we get too far into that, we just want to thank you if you've commented or rated the podcast on your favorite podcast app. That really helps us to get out to more people. So please do that if you haven't, and we really appreciate that. Also, join us on YouTube. This podcast is on YouTube at our DreamsMagicAdventure channel, so you can check it out there as well. Please subscribe. There's other videos there as well, just about our adventures with Disney and in life in general, and travels, things like that. This is a variety of things there. And then we are, follow us on social media at Dads of Adventure on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and now on TikTok. There's not, well, maybe by the time you watch this, there might be lots on TikTok, but there's a couple right now as we're filming this. Also go to dadsofadventure.com, sign up for the newsletter there. Also, beyond the newsletter, we have a membership there. So we would love to have you be a part of that. Part of the membership is videos that are helpful for just various Disney topics. A lot of the ones right now as we're recording this are on Walt Disney World, but whenever you're listening to this, there's probably going to be more content there. And just the general gist of those videos is to education on points where there may be frustration, where you can turn that into a positive experience. So if I give the example of the point from where you leave your hotel, or if you're leaving your house, depending on where you are, condo, whatever, timeshare, DVC resort, I don't know, but wherever you're leaving, wherever whatever your transportation is, whatever park you're going to, that point from getting from there to the park gates and inside the park gates to start your day is sometimes one of the most stressful times that you'll have during your trip there. So just want to help point out some of the things that are going to be going on so you can be prepared for them, so you're not frustrated for them, and you can start your day once you get into the parks on a positive experience. We're all about helping dads to have positive life adventures and Disney adventures with their family, and be leaders in that process. And I'm learning along with everybody else. So I'm not perfect. These are coming from my experiences of getting frustrated, and also and trying to figure out ways to overcome those so that I can have a more positive experience and be more positive in my life in general. Because that's easy to it's easy to be negative. It's harder to be positive. So working towards steps on that. But so that join us there. The other half of that is conversation from fellow Disney dads. So you can join in the conversation. I believe that the language of Disney is something that can be kind of a conduit. A lot of guys speak sports, and that's like a language that they talk to each other with, and get over to other topics. I speak Disney, and Disney is similar to that. A language that we can speak, a way that we can share experiences, and also share into other experiences in our lives, and share those positive moments with our family to help build each other up. So I'm really excited about meeting more people that are trying to do that, and just personally, but I'm excited about getting the opportunity for other people to meet each other as well, and share those experiences. So join. We'd love to have you, all your positive Disney dads. Check it out, and we'd love to see you there. So, getting on with today's episode, again, this is like the bonus episode of the 1991 Walt Disney World vacation trip. My We filmed a lot of our 1991 vacation, and it was on a VHS tape that my parents had. I knew that this existed, and I had some memories of the trip, but I really wanted to see this tape again. I knew we had watched it at some point at like a family gathering, so I knew it was there. And my dad found it and sent it, shipped it to me, and I've been watching the footage. It's multiple hours of our trip there, which is awesome. Lots of extinct attractions, for the Disney side, and things that just aren't there anymore. So if you want to get to experience that, listen in on the other episodes. I'm describing those there. At some point, I hope to put some of this on YouTube, because there's some great, just ride through videos that are there that document literally the history of Disney, and some of them, very extensive. So and very unique, experiences as well. So we're watching this. So this is me talking about, watching these tapes and, just getting those memories back. Because I had some memories of the trip, but, these memories are kind of flowing back as I watch some of this and remembering some other things along the way that I'd forgotten about. And to give you some context, we're kind of watching this on like a TV VCR combo. If you remember those, I have another VCR. Actually, I have two VCRs in today's world. And the other VCR just could not handle the tracking on it. But for some reason, this TV VCR combo can handle it perfectly. So we were able to watch it. Again, hope to get it converted one day, so that we can have that footage, on YouTube. But for now, we're going to talk about it. And you'll check out the other episodes as we go through each park and our arrival day. To give some further context, this is a wish trip that I took. I had leukemia when I was younger, and we got to stay at Give Kids the World Village, which is an awesome place. We'll dedicate probably a whole episode to that in the future, because it deserves that. So if you're not familiar with that, we will talk a little bit more about it here in this episode, but, be on the lookout for that in the future, because, I think it deserves that treatment. And the story behind it is just fantastic. We won't go over that right now, but I'll just talk a little bit more about my experiences there. So we'll start with that. So, again, this episode we went to all three Disney parks. But this is some of the side kind of things that we did along the way, kind of connected all together. Because we went to the park, went to the Give Kids the World Village, which is an experience in itself, and we went to a few other things that were provided as part of that trip. So thank you to, again, Give Kids the World Village, which was kind of the facilitator of that, and a agency called the Dream Factory was also responsible for that. So thank you to them. I'll start with one of the memories I had of that, and kind of a thing I took away from it was a visit to Hard Rock Cafe. I'd never been to a Hard Rock Cafe before, and we went to Hard Rock Cafe in Orlando, and I had a shirt. They gave me a shirt, and I wore that shirt all the time. So if you ever look at pictures of me from shortly after that trip in 1991, I have that shirt on. Again, to give some context, in 1991, I had some bright colored clothes on, and we had fanny packs, which we call belly bags because they were on the front, and all of that stuff is coming back right now. So it's like we're coming back to 1991 right now, in our modern era here, and I love it. But so we're at Hard Rock Cafe. You could order. This was big to me as a kid because I was a hungry kid, you could order whatever you wanted off the menu. And to give you context on like pricing back then, I remember like there was a point in the video where it was talking about like, did you know that this meal would have cost like $50 if we had we had bought all the things that we ate while we were there, and just thinking now you're like, yeah, that's probably a normal price for 4 or 5 people, not even 5 people, probably maybe 3 or 4, um, to have a meal there now. So just to give you context on pricing as well. But loved the experience there. Got they gave us the shirt, so that was really cool, and just really like you know themed restaurants. So that was a neat experience. And at the time we went to a couple different places. Um, I know we went to a water park, and I can't remember exactly which one, but we did get to go to a water park um, that was nearby. I think most of this stuff kind of took place around International Drive area. Um, but again, I can't remember exactly which one it was. I don't think it was the Disney water park that we went to, but I remember enjoying that. That's not part of the video, but it is something we did. Um, Going back to Give Kids the World Village before we get into some of the other things that we were doing, there's a number of things that are at the village that we were able to do. So I'll just recap those because I do cover those in the kind of our arrival video. But one of the things we did was go fishing. I remember going and catching like several. There was a fishing dock. There were 2 docks. There was one that was like a pavilion at the end, and then there was one that was like a pirate ship. So they're both cool. What we figured out was that there was a feeder that would come on to feed the fish. So I think there were catfish is the fish that were in there. We caught some little fish, and then eventually I caught 2 big fish. And there was somebody there that was like a volunteer or someone working at the village that helped us to get those off the line, and because we really hadn't fished that much. But that was a cool experience. Just recapping, before we knew about the feeders, we were using the bologna, little pieces of bologna out of Lunchable packets, because our fridge was filled with like all the things that a kid could want, like soda, candy, and free Lunchables. Like that was just they knew what kids wanted when they stocked that fridge. So that was a cool part of Give Kids the World Village, and there was a big part of it where of the video where we were in a pool party too. So they had pool parties with like ice cream socials. So I had like a big old ice cream sundae was a part of this video. And in part of it, we're talking about like some of our other experiences because, again, that talked a little bit about the water park, talked a little bit about SeaWorld. So we'll get to the SeaWorld in just a moment here. I think I covered well the other kind of aspects of Give Kids the World Village. One of the things that is also a big part of this video is a character greets. There were character greets at that pool party for like some of the SeaWorld characters. I think Pete the Penguin was, you can get their signatures and everything. And in the food area, which I believe might have been sponsored by, well, I won't mention it at the moment, but the food area was cool. You got free, breakfast, and at breakfast they had characters there. So they're Disney characters. I remember like a version of Shamu, I believe, was there. I think I have to look back at like I had a bright green um, hat, and that was my where I got all my signatures um, from all the characters. So I might have to look back at that. Um, anyway, there was a big portion of the video that focused on that. You got to have a lot of character interaction with the characters that came. So it was cool that all those characters came um, out, and we were able to see those at the village too, and have that more personal experience than just being in the parks. Uh, the So we'll go to our Universal experience because there's not that much on the video, um, and there wasn't like a whole lot to Universal when we went. But I remember one of the things that I really was looking forward to is going to the Nickelodeon Studios that were a part of Universal Studios at the time. So if anybody ever watched, Nickelodeon as a kid, you had Nickelodeon Studios, and you had that slime fountain. Was always an image in my mind about Universal Studios. So we got to see the slime fountain. There's not a lot of footage. There's not a lot of footage of when we're actually there. I think there was like a Western show that I think I had placed after thinking about it in Universal Studios. So it was like horses and country Western, stunt show type thing. So that was pretty cool. I don't remember that a lot, but there's a pretty good amount of footage around that. I do remember getting a hat that said Nickelodeon Studios. Again, bright green, fluorescent hat from Nickelodeon Studios, and I think there was a pin or something like that I had as well. I do remember kind of going into the studios. They weren't filming anything there, but it was a time when they were like filming things at Nickelodeon Studios. I believe I might be wrong on that, but that's what I seem to remember. But they weren't filming anything at the time. But we did get the chance to go see that. I don't remember much else of what we did at Universal Studios while we were there, but I do remember we got to go as part of that trip. And now it's much bigger and tons of stuff. But one of the things that just recently came up as Universal is reopening as we speak, as we're recording this, the I do remember the old logo, and they now have like the old vintage logo in some of the merchandise in the park. So, well, I'm mostly Disney fan, and on the Disney side, I may have to go over there to Universal at some point to check that out because that is part of my childhood. Was that original Universal Studios logo. But that was Universal, and I do remember distinctly we went to something called King Henry's Feast. So it was like multi-course meal. If you remember like medieval times, this was like a version of it. I think it's still there. I mean, I remember seeing it, along kind of like the International Drive corridor, and I think it's still there. I'm not certain of that, but I know it was there up till recently because I remember seeing it but driving by at some point. But that was a cool experience. Just all the food, the show, theater that was along with it. So we got a chance to do that, and we also. So the final thing I'll talk about is we went to SeaWorld. Well, that won't be the final thing, but SeaWorld was probably one of the bigger parts of what we did. SeaWorld was a little bit, different than what it is now. So, the first part of that SeaWorld video is like a lights and water show, like water shooting up. Imagine like the Fountains of Nations in Epcot. That's again no longer there. But like on a stage, that's like shooting up, and then once that finishes, there's like a stage that opens, and then there's like a scientist talking about SeaWorld. Apparently, we didn't like record a lot of that, but yeah, that was cool to see that show. And then there was like a water area where you could like shoot water cannons, which was like my thing back then. Shooting water cannons, and it was the age of super soakers. So I remember like everybody had at least one super soaker or some version of that, or the knockoff version of the super soaker back then. So yeah, that was my element right there. And then we the biggest part of the footage at SeaWorld is the show with Shamu, and I don't know exactly what that was called, but there's a lot of, but we had like, or at least we were standing up front, like in the splash zone. I remember like, that moment where you're like all tense and everything, where you're like, I want to be splashed, but I don't know if I'm ready for this type moment. And it looked like we got a chance to be splashed quite a bit, and that was cool to see that show. I know that SeaWorld is changing, and there's a lot of things that are changing about SeaWorld, but I'll just say that I not state any political opinions or anything like that, but it was a cool show that was part of my childhood, and I learned a lot about it's just neat to see that. So that kind of wraps up kind of our parks area and our Orlando side of things. So the last part of our trip, which I had some interesting memories of, and hadn't pieced together some of the parts of it until recently, was a trip to the beach. So we we had our wish trip, but then we like extended our rental car, and we took a day before we had to head back, and we went to Treasure Island Beach in St. Pete. So we went there, and I didn't realize till recently that this was kind of a in the history of my family and their vacations. Apparently my dad went there when he was a kid for vacations, and my mom went there on vacations. I remember my grandfather talking about that. When they were kids, apparently, and my parents went there on a trip before I was around. So we went there. I didn't realize this was again like a place that we were had some history from my family already, but we went there, and all I remember for a while was that we went to Tampa to go to the beaches, but Tampa really doesn't have beaches. I mean, there's the bay, and there's like Apollo Beach, and some other areas around there, around the bay, but ocean beaches are in St. Pete. So I didn't realize that's where we were, but then through that video, we were up in what looked like some sort of like rented condo. It didn't look like a hotel room. I think it had like a kitchenette in it. So I'm not sure what the building was. Don't know if the building's still there. Might check it out next time I'm around in that area. But that was our trip. We went, we just loved going out in the ocean, sand. I think that was our first trip to like the beach as kids. So it was a neat experience to go do that. And there's some footage from like the balcony, as some of us were out there, and I think it was just a lot of like going back and forth to the beach and enjoying that experience before we headed back to Orlando International to head back home. So that again wraps up the 1991 World Vacation. Again, it was a great experience, and check out the other episodes that are chronicling some of those things, and my reactions to those, to the parks, and the day that we got there, and more about Give Kids the World Village, which again there'll be a future episode on at some point here. And yeah, so that kind of wraps that up. And again, please rate and review the podcast on your favorite podcast app. Find this also at DreamsMagicAdventure YouTube channel and subscribe there. And also follow us on social media at Dads of Adventure on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And be normally most active on Instagram, but we'll be doing some more things probably on Facebook at some point. So, subscribe to all of the things that where we are, and interact with us. Talk to us, comment on things. Send me a message if you have seen this. I would love to hear from you. And so check it out there. Oh, and we're also on TikTok. Depending on when you hear this, we might have a lot of videos. Right now we have a few, but we're working on that, seeing how that's going. And the biggest part too is go to Dads of Adventure. You can also go to DreamsMagicAdventure and find it there. But go to dadsofadventure.com, and that will take you to, it'll redirect to the Dreams Magic Adventure page. But on there you can subscribe for Dads of Adventure for the email list. So please do that so we can stay in touch and inform you about other things that you may miss if you're just saying those things on Facebook or Instagram if it doesn't make it to your feed. And the other part of that is a membership. So please join the membership. I already described it, so I won't describe it again. But please join that membership and be a part of that. Love to speak with you as fellow Disney dads. If you have any questions on it, you can email dadsofadventure at gmail.com, or if you have any issues with getting signed up, let me know, and we'll go from there. But that's it for this episode. This won't necessarily all be in order, so check out the other episodes, find them to review the rest of our Walt Disney World 1991 vacation. And for now, go have an adventure with your family.